Today I was going to do a video on patriarchy theory. I've been looking at it, been researching it, been debating it online, had stuff written up for it, but after recent events at VidCon, I'm going to post this one instead and leave the patriarchy video for next time. I was unable to attend the event, but I saw a video of the Women Online panel, and I saw Boogie2988's video on his experience. I read VidCon's Medium post on creators getting kicked out, and I left a comment. Short version, Anita Sarkeesian behaved like a bleeding inflammatory anodermal lesion, and the conference administrators seemed to be perfectly okay with that, but they think the people she abused might be unacceptable patrons at their conference from now on. In light of that, I want to get the points I stated in my comment across to a wider audience, so here it is. I'm one of many women online who strongly disagree with Anita Sarkeesian's overall message and her characterization of Sargon of Akkad's speech as harassment. Anita speaks from the mindset that feminism is the owner and arbiter of women's issues, that women's issues as defined by feminism's academic establishment are paramount and therefore supersede everything, including the very rules of engagement feminists demand from other people. Feminists purport to be spokespeople for women partly based on their own claim that women's voices are stifled, but when they encounter women with a non-feminist view, their primary response is to stifle ours. It should be noted that there were several women in the section of the audience to whose presence at a public event, albeit with an entry fee, Anita took exception. She did not seem all that keen on providing those women with the same protection from being silenced. In fact, she accused the whole crowd, not just one guy, of deliberately trying to intimidate her by sitting in the audience and listening to what the panel had gathered there to say. Her career is based on making public political assertions about nerd and geek culture that demonize men and ignore the women who were nerds and geeks before it was cool, disparaging the culture itself, demanding it be changed to suit her sensibilities, and then attempting to silence disagreement with her accusations by characterizing all of it as abuse. That is all she did in this instance as well. Attempted to silence disagreement with her accusations against entire political perspectives and cultures by portraying said disagreement as abuse and herself as a victim. Nobody is endangered by the presence of people they disagree with. It is not harassment or bullying to disagree with something a person has said. It is not harassment or bullying to reply publicly to a person's public assertions or actions. It is not harassment or bullying to criticize those things, even if that criticism is harsh, even if it employs ridicule, and even if people who hear those criticisms react in a way the criticized individual finds hurtful. It is not harassment or bullying to, after criticizing an individual's public behavior, be present in a public space where that person is also present. Having publicly criticized a person's public assertions, even harshly or with ridicule, does not even become harassment or bullying if, after hearing that criticism, some dumbass actually does engage in harassment of the person who articulated those assertions. The dumbass is responsible for his or her own behavior. And the fact that some dumbass might use criticism of an idea as an excuse for bad behavior does not exempt any ideas from criticism, or reflect on or alter the intentions of the critic. And regardless of what anybody has done online, sitting silently in the audience of a presentation at a public event, even one with paid attendance, is not harassment or bullying, even if the person doing it is one of the presenter's harshest critics. Nobody is saying that you should not let Anita speak, but if you let Anita use this feigned victimhood to silence disagreement with and objection to her defamation of entire political groups and cultures, you will become exactly what she's accusing us of being, a person taking actions that will result in stifling women's speech. Feminism does not own women. We are not feminism's staple of proxy victims to whore out for political power and money. Feminism is not the arbiter of women's interests, issues, or personal boundaries or sensibilities. It is not the moral arbiter of men's social position in reference to women, nor is it the arbiter of men's personal liberties. Men's personal liberties are not made morally more subject to control by feminist sensibilities or feminist description of women's sensibilities than women's liberties should be subject to control by men's sensibilities. Feminism is merely a political perspective to which some women and some men subscribe. They are not morally justified in imposing it on the rest of us. People who are not feminist have as much right to any public forum or platform as feminists do, regardless of how feminists feel about hearing or seeing disagreement with their assertions about both sexes. Feminism is not the default pro-woman position, and it is not the default measure for right and wrong. Women and men have as much right to be non-feminist in public as to be feminist in public. Women and men have as much right to be anti-feminist in public as to be feminist in public. Excluding via policy a part of your community on the basis of political perspective at the request of a pundit for an opposing political perspective would be a genuinely abusive, even dangerous, and overall foolish precedent to set at a venue for public communications platforms. Now, I've already had a few people privately message me to express their concern at the tone of my comment to the administrators of VidCon. In particular, my choice to label the threat to exclude people of one political viewpoint at the behest of those of an opposing viewpoint dangerous has elicited labels of extreme and inflammatory, and there are enough that, rather than respond via private messages to each individually, I'm just going to lay it out right here. There has been a very specific pattern among the identity politics authoritarians we're used to seeing labeled social justice warriors, one for which I believe Sargon coined the term cry-bullying. It's been especially prevalent among feminists who use women as a victim class to promote political censorship on every social media platform with administrators who will listen to them. They are literally using false allegations of bullying, harassment, and stifling of women's voices as tools of bullying, harassment, and censorship of political speech they dislike. There are even groups like Women Action Media that exist for no other purpose than to put financial pressure on communications platforms to exclude certain types of speech, including that of anti-feminists. And each time a new frontier of free and open discussion begins to gain popularity, it becomes the next in line for these cry-bullies to attack. Now they're doing the same thing with public places and events, to the degree that their own ideologues can outright abuse other attendees at a conference and still use victim signaling to get their targets threatened with exclusion from future events. The authoritarian ideology that is known for using female victim signaling to push for legislation that would otherwise be rejected for violating human rights is systematically pushing standards and policies into place to prevent any opposing viewpoint from being heard. What do you think is going to happen when you're barred everywhere from objecting to their demands? What do you think the goal of eliminating dissenting speech could possibly be?